I welcome you to listen to the words from Isaiah chapter 9, verse 6. For to us a child is born, to us a son is given, and the government shall be upon his shoulder, and his name shall be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace.
Thank you so much. You can have a seat. Well, again, want to welcome you to River Valley Church, and Merry Christmas to everyone here. It's great to see you all. Some I haven't seen in a little while, and some of you are regular. Some of I've met for the first time, but if I haven't met you yet, I would love to do that before the night is over. My name is Justin, and again, it's great to have you. We love to open up at all times, but this time of year is just something special. Well, before we jump in tonight, I'd love to do something a little bit fun with you. Not that it hasn't been fun already, right? But I'd like to play a little Christmas trivia with you, if that's all right. And maybe some of the kids in the room, if they want to help us out. We're going to test your knowledge tonight to see how well you know the Christmas story. So here we go. First question is, what does the Bible say that the innkeeper said to Mary and Joseph? Is it A, there's no room in the inn, B, there's a stable you can use, C, come back later, I should have some vacancies, or D, none of the above? Any guesses? Okay, I hear B. The answer is D, none of the above. Actually, the Bible doesn't tell us what the innkeeper said to Mary and Joseph. All right, next question. According to the Bible, how did Mary and Joseph get to Bethlehem? Was it A, a camel, B, a donkey, C, they walked, D, Joseph walked and Mary rode a donkey, E, an electric scooter, or F, who knows? I hear a lot of D's in the room, and the answer is, who knows? We actually are not told. Some of you are feeling like, I've been in church my whole life, and now I heard that for the first time. We don't actually know how Mary and Joseph got to Bethlehem. How about the third question? How many angels spoke to the shepherds? Was it A, 1, B, 3, C, a multitude, or D, none of the above? Well, it certainly wasn't D. I'll give you that. We'll start there. The answer is 1. Now, this is a little tricky. There was one angel that spoke, and then a multitude of angels joined him afterwards. And then our final question of the night. The wise men brought gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. What is myrrh? Is it A, Eastern money, B, a drink, C, easily shaped metal, or D, a spice used for burying people? Now you guys are on to it. D is the answer. Yes, great job. Well, speaking of gifts, it's probably no surprise that Christmas time is consistently the largest consumer spending event of the entire year. In fact, Americans collectively spend over, catch this, $950 billion during the Christmas season each year. It's the reason why retailers are so happy this time of year with Christmas in a way that is unique and distinct from something like the 4th of July. There's a lot going on. Christmas is unique. In fact, Christmas is the only holiday where we generally give gifts to multiple people at one time. See, at birthdays and weddings and anniversaries, we usually all give gifts to one, but at Christmas, I don't know if you've ever thought about this before, but at Christmas, generally speaking, we all give gifts to all. Why do we do that? Why do we do that? Well, among other things, it's a tradition that ends up highlighting, and I think it's a good tradition, but it ends up highlighting something more than just the gift giving. It highlights or acts out what you might see as the central event of Christmas, which is this, that Jesus was not just born, but he was given. He was not just born, but he was given. See, the Bible teaches that Jesus being part of the Trinity, had an existence before he was born. Jesus didn't come into existence when he was born in a manger, right, in Bethlehem, but he had a pre-existence before his actual human birth in eternity past. And so therefore, he wasn't just born, but he was given. He was given to the world as a gift. You ever think about what makes a great gift? I mean, a lot of you probably are, let's be honest. How many of you guys still have some gift wrapping to do, like tonight? It's the time of year that we're thinking about gifts, we're wrapping gifts potentially, and have you ever stopped to think about what makes the greatest gifts what they are? There's a few things I could think of this week, and this isn't the case for every gift you've ever received, but sometimes some of the best qualities of gifts can be found in gifts that are unexpected or a surprise. How many like surprises? Sometimes surprises are great, sometimes they're not. But the power and the delight of a gift often gets elevated when it isn't expected. I feel like this happened to me many years ago now when I met my wife, Danielle. And no, I'm not doing this for brownie points. But I met Danielle when I was 15 and a half. And, it was at a time when in my life, like 15 and a half, you're not really looking, I think, for you don't even know what a relationship looks like or long-term commitment looks like. But she came along into my life at a time when I least expected it. And it's a crazy story. I'd love to share it with you if you're ever interested. But quite literally, she walked into my life as a surprise. And we just celebrated 20 years this past May together. Thank you. She's had to put up with me for 20 years, 20 long years. It's amazing to be on the receiving end of unexpected gifts. It's also fun to be on the giving side of surprises. Maybe you've received a surprise gift or an unexpected gift, but how fun is it to be on the other side of that, where you're actually the one doing the giving? I'll never forget when we announced to our families at the same time, we were both in the same place together on a vacation with both sides of the family. We announced to them that we were pregnant for the first time. And we made my grandparents for the first time. And it was just a special event to be able to be on the giving side of an unexpected gift. And we were, excited to announce that, we were pregnant with Abby Barney. And it was the surprise gift that no one expected, but everyone was overjoyed to receive. I'm convinced that this aspect of gift giving and receiving is part of the difference between someone who is a true follower of Jesus and someone who merely has formal religion or moral goodness. For a real Christian, there is always this big or small watershed moment in their life where they discovered the real Jesus. I sat right up here just yesterday with somebody who was sharing their story with me. And it was unmistakable that there was a moment in this person's life where they could pinpoint the moment that they met the real Jesus. And it was a moment for them that they won't forget. Some of you have stories like that. Some of you grew up in a background where you were laid a foundation of faith and you came to know Jesus in a real way. And like this person that I met with, when Jesus showed up for him, it's not at all what he expected, but it's everything that he needed. It's not at all what he expected, but it turns out that it was everything that he didn't know he needed. Has that happened to you? As you sit here tonight, as you think about this idea of why we gather for Christmas, as I said before, this isn't just a tradition for us. We actually believe that Jesus has made himself known, God with us, Emmanuel. Has this happened to you? Have you met the real Jesus? If not, it's probably safe to assume that you haven't yet encountered the real Jesus if you've not yet had that watershed moment in your life. And because you haven't yet encountered the real Jesus, you haven't even been given the proper opportunity to reject the real Jesus. If you read any of the stories in the Bible, what's curious is that you find that no one in the Bible ever had a casual relationship to Jesus. It's really interesting as you look at some of the stories and some of the characters. They either loved Jesus and gave up everything that they had to follow him, or they hated him and they tried everything in their power to kill him, or they were so afraid of him that they ran away scared. And I would submit to you tonight, if that you're not either afraid of Jesus or hate Jesus or love him from the bottom of your heart, that you have not yet encountered the real Jesus, because there's no in-between in that relationship. Well, the second thing that makes gifts great is oftentimes that gifts are valuable. Valuable. Not all of them, but many times a quality of a gift can be measured by its value and its worth. Some of the best gifts are the kind that you, when you receive them, you might think to yourself, well, I would never have bought that for myself. Even better, I could never afford to buy that for myself. I think back to a time when Danielle and I were newly married. We were in our young 20s, and we were newly married. We didn't have a lot of extra money, and there was a very generous couple in our church back in Pennsylvania when we were there that gifted us a surprise, all expenses paid trip to New York City. What an incredible experience. I'll never forget it. We stayed right in Times Square. We had never had this kind of an experience before. We stayed right downtown. I remember, some of you New Yorkers are going to laugh at me here, but I remember coming around the corner. I don't think I'd ever driven in Times Square in my life, and I was terrified. When I came around that corner and we came onto the main strip there, oh my goodness, I was like, we are not in New Hampshire anymore. And I'll never forget it. We found our way to this beautiful hotel. We ate at a few fancy restaurants. We toured around the city. We had a wonderful time. It was an unmistakable trip, and we were just so thankful. And the experience of that trip was heightened by the fact that it was a valuable gift that was given to us that we actually couldn't give to ourselves. This is what made this gift even better. And this is exactly what we see in the gospel with Jesus Christ. It's exactly what we see. You see, we have a God with us. We use the word Emmanuel. That means God with us. We sing about this God with us at this time of year. We sing about him tonight. Hopefully, if you're able to join us afterwards here, the live nativity is going to be taking place right out here on the common. It's a 50-year-old tradition in the town of Walpole, and there will be live animals, and we will sing again about this God with us, Emmanuel. But have you ever stopped to think about the immense value and worth of a God who made himself accessible to you and me? The Apostle Paul in the New Testament, he wrote most of the New Testament, and one of the heroes of our faith, here's what he had to say to a church plant, much like ours in Corinth. And a fun little fact, when Danielle and I celebrated 20 years together, we took a really fun trip to Greece this past year, and we actually got to go and visit the old ancient city of Corinth. It was one of the highlights of my trip, and to be in that place and to hear Paul, and here's what he says in 2 Corinthians chapter 9. He says this about Jesus as the gift. He says, "Thanks be to God for his inexpressible gift." Thanks be to God for his inexpressible gift. See, every other major religion of the world says that if you want to find God, you have to reach up. You have to try harder. You have to be better. You have to do good. Christianity is the only religion that gives us a God who came down. Every other religion says, come up, reach up, But God says, actually, I'm going to come down. And up until the first Christmas, the Bible describes a God that shows up in creation in multiple ways. In the stories of the Bible, we have some more intense imagery that we see. For instance, God appeared to Moses in a blazing tree or a burning bush. He appeared to Job in a tornado. He appeared to the children of Israel in a pillar of fire by night and a cloud by day. But on that very first Christmas, some thousands of years later, God chose to reveal himself in the form of a human baby. Why? Why would he go from this imagery of magnitude and majesty to the helplessness of a little baby? Well, anyone who has their own children or have been around little children knows that there's nothing more accessible than an infant. We're experiencing this all over again in our family with our youngest, Cyrus. He's 2. He has red hair. He is a spice of life. I was sharing earlier tonight, he's going to keep me young forever, I feel like. But he is 2 years old. And, the beautiful thing about it is he is right now totally open to us. Like, we can go and get hugs and kisses and snuggles and ugga-muggas from him. If you're familiar with Daniel Tiger, I'm back in that world, friends, of watching kids shows. An ugga-mugga is just a nose-to-nose, one of these. But we realize something. Having gone through this before, Abby is 14 years old, Soren is 12, and now we have a 2-year-old. Something that you don't know until you get there or you go through it or you've been around it is that as children grow, the accessibility isn't as high, let's put it that way. All of a sudden, they become their own person. They start to grow out of that 3 and 4. They start to develop a personality of their own. And all of a sudden, they don't want hugs from mom and dad. They're trying to get away from you. And there's some barriers that develop with kids as they grow and develop. The God of the universe, in his infinite majesty and glory, revealed himself in the form of a human baby, so that the barriers between us and him would come down. He became vulnerable so that we could have access to him. Isn't that beautiful? The way that he chose to give himself to the world is in the same way that an infant baby is oftentimes the most open to us as human beings. Accessible. My question tonight is, have you received this gift? Have you received the gift of Christmas? I'm not talking about the nostalgia or the warm fuzzies that this time of year brings. I'm talking about the gift of God's Son, Jesus Christ. God with us, Emmanuel. The heart of the Christian message is that it's a surprise gift of infinite value to you and not something that you could ever earn or purchase on your own. And despite what our cultural narrative might try to reinforce, and they do every single day, the true message of the gospel says that you will never be enough. You won't be loving enough. You won't be good enough. You could never be nice enough or qualified enough or have enough knowledge enough. Why? Why is it not enough for me to be a good person, to have a moral uprightness? Because in the gospel, it's based on a gift. And that means that it's for everyone, good and bad, who would simply receive it. A lot of times people like to think that, I love the Jesus thing. I love the Jesus man, but I hate the exclusivity of Jesus. I think if I'm just a good person, if I'm a nice human being, here's the problem. The problem is in our hearts. It's a spiritual dilemma. We don't have the ability to be the level of goodness and niceness that God would require as a holy God. We can't do it. And so we have a God who has made himself accessible to us. The gift of Jesus is based on a gift, and that means that it's for everyone and anyone who would come to him. And that's good news. And like the Apostle Paul, we can also hear that news and say to ourselves, thanks be to God for his inexpressible gift. Let's pray. God, thank you for the gift of Christmas. That as we sing and as we proclaim that to us a child was born and to us a son was given. Thank you for coming near. Thank you for making yourself like a little baby accessible, and for offering us grace when we could never earn it ourselves. And tonight, if anyone here desires to receive this special gift that you give freely, we simply open our hearts to you and say, Jesus, I trust you. I hear what's being said and I want what's on offer. I receive the life and the forgiveness that you have for me. And now I welcome your peace into my heart. And as we leave this place, may the gift of Christ go with us into our homes, into our families, and into our world. And we thank you, God, for your inexpressible gift that has been given.